The Ezra Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Baba Kamma, daf Lamed Hey, and we are holding in daf Lamed Dalit Amid Beis by the Mishnah. Mishnah says, Yesh chayev al maise shoyrei upot al maise atzmai. Mishnah gives examples of if your shor did something, you're chayev to pay. But if you did the same thing, you're not chayev to pay. Can you imagine that? And then there's an opposite case. Potter al ma'aseh shari. If your shor did the same thing, did something, you would be potter from paying. But if you did it, v'chayev al ma'aseh asma. If you did the same thing, you'll be chayev to pay. Now that makes strange, and the Mishnah will explain itself. Ketzad. Let me give you a case. Shoyrei shabiyish. If your ox caused embarrassment to somebody, potter, because to be chayev for boishes. To be mechayev for boishes, you have to have kavana. Hi, Lewis. Well, we just began, and the Mishnah is just running through different cases, the difference between if you do it or your ox does it. So the Mishnah gives an example on Lamed Dalet Amid Beis. Shoyrei shabiyish. If you shor embarrass somebody, potter. You shor embarrass somebody, you potter from paying. V'hu shabiyish. But if you embarrass somebody, chayev. You chayev to pay. Shoyrei, your own ox, let's say, shesimas ein avdoi v'hipol ashinoi, blinded the eye of your slave, or knocked out his tooth. So then, potter, you potter from paying. Why? Because even though the slave goes out free when you blind him or you knock out his teeth, but only if you do it. If your ox does it, your slave remains a slave. If you do that to your slave, you blinded him or knocked out his teeth, chayev, you're obligated to pay. It doesn't mean you're obligated to pay. It means that the slave goes free. Now the opposite case. Shor shechoval ba'ava v'imay. If your ox, caused a wound to your father and mother, chayev, you chayev to pay because you caused a wound to your father and mother. Right, but they're like any damages that your ox does. But v'hu shechaval ba'ava v'imay. Let's say a man went and made a wound for his father and mother, right? So then you potter from paying, and you can see why. Because when you do a damage to your parents on purpose, the Torah says you're chayiv to get killed. So once you're chayiv to get killed, you don't have to pay. That's the din. If you're chayiv, if you do something and you chayiv misa, you don't have to pay, because the misa is the kapara. Shara shehidlik es agodish b'Shabbos. Let's say your ox lit up a fire, started a fire, burned somebody's wheat field on Shabbos. Chayiv, then you chayiv to pay. But v'hu shehidlik es agodish b'Shabbos. If you did and fired up your friend's wheat field on Shabbos, so you did an avera of chilul. Potter, you're potter from paying. Why? Because you're obligated to get you're already paying with your life, because you're going to get killed because of what you did. So that is the Mishnah. Tana Rababo made a statement. Kamed Rabbi Yochanan. He taught a brisa. We know on Shabbos you have to do things with a constructive purpose. Says the brisa, Rababo taught a brisa in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Call a makalkal, and if you do something in a destructive manner, Peturin, you potter. Chutz, the exception to this rule is mechoivel. If you do a wound in a destructive manner, you would be chayev to pay, even if you have no reason why you're doing. Let's say a person like cuts himself on purpose on Shabbos, and he had no constructive reason, you would be chayev on Shabbos. Now, what's the reason? Because the reason is, since we have a pasuk that says you could do mila on Shabbos, so from here we learn that any type of chabola, any type of wound that you cause yourself, you're chayev on Shabbos. Only mila is exception that is permitted to be done on Shabbos. And then amaver, if I light a fire for no purpose, right? I just strike a match for no purpose, and let's say not strike a match. If I burn something for no purpose, so you would be chayev chilul Shabbos. Because since the Torah says, the Torah prohibits you from burning, let's say the bas kohen that's an adulteress, is chayev sreifa. The Torah says you can't burn her on Shabbos. So, because you're doing a destructive thing. But since the Torah says that you can't do on Shabbos, so we see from there that any other type of kilkel in havara, in burning, yechayev. So, for example, if you burn a vessel on Shabbos, you'd be chayev al tzchil Shabbos. So again, any destructive thing that you do, you're potter, except choivel and mavir, the two malachas of Shabbos. If you do that, even in a destructive manner, you'll be chayev Shabbos. Amalei. So Rabbi Yochanan responded, "Puk tana levra, take that brisa outside. Choivel umavir ain't a mishnah. There's no mishnah that says that's not a good brisa. It's not. It was never taught that way. The intim tzoloim mishnah. If you say that choivel umaver, even choivel umaver on Shabbos yechayev, choivel if you cause a wound, b'tzarich lekalboy, because you're trying to give blood to your dog. So there is a constructive reason why you're choivel. Then you'll be chayev because of choivel. So if a person gives himself a wound because he wants to put blood into a bowl to give to his dog, that's considered a constructive purpose, and you chayev a chil Shabbos. Mavir, if you start a fire, what constructive purpose can you have for starting a fire? But tzarich le'efroi, if you need the ashes for whatever reason, if you do such a fire, that's when it says you'll be chayev on Shabbos. But just lighting a fire and you don't even need the ashes, then you'll be potter. You didn't do anything wrong on Shabbos because it's a destructive type of action. Just causing a fire. So now the Gemara questions from our Mishnah. Shoyre shehidlik as a gadish b'Shabbos chayev. V'hu shehidlik as a gadish b'Shabbos potter. If you do that, if you light up your friend's, if your friend's wheat field was lit up by your ox, then you chayev. If you do the same act, then you potter. So we're going to juxtapose this our mission. That's our Mishnah. That what you're doing is very similar to what your ox is doing. The ox, when he does this, he doesn't need this burnt wheat field. What constructive purposes does he have it? And so we go to the top of Laman Haim. We're talking about a case where when he lit his friend's wheat field, he didn't need the ashes, and he's just a mekalkel. And the Brisa says you're potter from paying. Why? Because you mechal Shabbos. So we see that there's a chiyuv misa for lighting a fire, even though you have no constructive purpose for doing it. So therefore, it's a question against Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, no, the only time when you light a fire is you'll be chayev on Shabbos if you have a constructive reason. But if you don't have a constructive reason, then you'll be potter. And here the Brisa says, our Mishnah seems to imply that you'll be chayev even if you have no constructive purpose for lighting that fire. Answers the Gemara, lo, you're reading our Mishnah wrong. Shorei dumididei. The ox is similar to him. Mahu the kabayale, just like he needs it, he's lighting the fire for a purpose. Ashore the kabayale. Really, the ox started a fire because it was a super smart ox, and he needed something of this wheat field after it's burnt. So the Gemara says, "Shore hecha mishkachasla." How could you find such a shar that would want a burnt wheat field? Amalei Rav Iva explained, here we're talking about b'shoire pikech, like you sometimes see on the YouTube, a very smart ox. He got a very bad bite in its back. Maybe it got into a fight, and it got a bite in its back. So it got smart. It wants to start a fire and roll in the ashes. So that's why he started this fire to burn this wheat field, to roll in the ashes. So the Gemara says, "Mno yedin." And how do you know that the shor did it? The ox did it like on that purpose. The boss of the kalya, the Kamma gander bekutma. We see that after he lit the fire, he started rolling in the ashes. So the Gemara asks the question. You're talking about, our Mishnah is talking about such a smart ox. Is there such a possibility to have such a smart ox? And yes, there was smart oxen like that. The Hu Torah, there was an ox, the Have Bei Rapapa, that belonged to Rapapa, the Have Kavin Le Chinche. His teeth were bothering him. Oil, he went into Rapapa's upaske, he tipped open the top of Lunazaisa of a barrel. And Rapapa, as you know, was in the beer business. And he drank beer. And he healed his gums. So we see that animals can do very intelligent things. So our Mishnah is talking about the animal burnt down a wheat field to do an intelligent thing, to roll in the ashes of that wheat field. And therefore, we're talking about the human doing the same idea. It burned the wheat field because it needed the ashes. Alma Rabbanan Kamei Rapapa. So Rabbanan said to Rapapa, "Mi matzes amishayir dumididei." Can you say that the ox is doing it for a purpose, like the human is doing it for a purpose? Valkatani, we learned in a brisa, the Mishnah said, "Shayre shabiyish." If the ox does embarrasses somebody, potter, you potter from paying. Who shabiyish? But if you yourself embarrass somebody, chayiv, so that you chayiv to pay. So you can tell me that our Mishnah is speaking with intent. How could you have an ox with the intention of embarrassing somebody? How could that be? An ox doesn't have feelings like that to know that it wants to now embarrass somebody. Answers the Gemara, and we know that in order to be mechayev for boishes, you have to have intent. So the explanation is like this. Really, to mechayev and boishes, you don't have to have intent to embarrass. You have to have intent to do damage. So, kegoin, for example, sheskav lahazik, that if you have intention to do damage, damamar neskav lahazik, if a man has intention to do damage, afal pishin neskav labayish, even if he doesn't want to embarrass, he's chayiv for boishes. So the shor had intention to do mazik. Nevertheless, even if it did embarrass, it wouldn't have to pay for their embarrassment. But a human who had intention to do mazik and did damage would have to pay for boishes. So again, our Mishnah is speaking that you're doing things with intent, and therefore our Mishnah says that it's only because they're going to put you to death. That's why you're chayev. That's why you're not chayev to pay back for burning down somebody else's wheat field. Rava says another teretz. Masnisim b'shoigig. Our Mishnah is talking about you burn down the wheat field b'shoigig with no intention for the ashes. No intention. So why would I be potter from paying? Why would I be potter from paying if by mistake somebody burned down somebody else's wheat field on Shabbos? He'd be potter from paying, but really they're not putting him to death. So why is he potter from paying? So the answer is, since he is in the Mechala Shabbos type of parsha, even though they're not going to physically put him to death, he's still not going to be obligated to pay. Like Chizkiah taught. The Talmud Bavli Chizkiah, Maka Odam, Maka Behema. The Torah tells you if you kill an animal, you kill a person. Maka Behema. Just like when you kill an animal, like Chalakta Ben Shoigig, Ben Mezid, Ben Miskavan, L'Shenim Miskavan, Ben Derechid, Derechaliya, LePoitroi Ben Moment, El Chayva Ben Moment. The Torah makes no difference. No matter how you kill the animal, you have to pay. Af Maka Odam. So also when you kill a human being, it means that no matter how you're going to kill a human being, even if it's by mistake, so they're not going to put you to death, you're not going to have to pay for his suit. You're always going to be potter. Certainly, if you kill a human being and you damaged his suit, well, and you did it on purpose, so that since they're putting you to death, they're not going to give you a bill to pay for his suit. But even if you killed somebody by accident, even if a person killed somebody by accident and damaged the suit, so they're not putting him to death because it was an accident, you'll be potter from paying money, because that's what the Torah says. Since you're in the ball of Chiyav Misa, so therefore you're not chayiv to pay any money. That's what the Gemara is saying. So therefore, over here, we're talking about on Shabbos, really, a guy burned down somebody else's wheat field by mistake. He didn't need the ashes. And nevertheless, our Mishnah says, you're potter from paying, since you were sort of being Mechal Shabbos, even though they're not going to physically put you to death. Amr le Rabban le Rava, so Rabbanan said to Rava, how can you say our Mishnah is talking about you did it by accident? Our Mishnah says that the reason why you're potter for paying for the wheat field is because they're going to kill you. Not because, so how can you say our Mishnah is talking about you did it b'shoigig? Answers the Gemara, Hochi Kamma, this is what our Mishnah meant to say. Kivin de b'mezid nida b'nafshay. If you did it on purpose, how could you burn somebody else's wheat field? And if that's a destructive action, and how could you be B'chil Shabbos if you do it on purpose? The Kabbalah Efrei, if you need it for the ashes, So therefore, if you would have done it b'mezid for a constructive purpose, then you would be chayiv misa. So, and you'd be potter from paying. Hashtan b'shoigig potter. So even if you do it by accident with no constructive purpose, you still be potter from paying. So we just got through a very important sugya, just to sum it in one sentence, that when you do a chilul Shabbos, a person does a chilul Shabbos, it has to be done for a constructive purpose. So the question is, how could lighting a fire, burning down somebody else's wheat field, be considered a constructive purpose? The answer is that you won't be chayiv misa, according to Rabbi Yochanan, unless you're burning down somebody's wheat field because you want the ashes, you need the ashes. But if you had no reason, if you're just a destructive vandal doing vandalism, then you wouldn't be chayiv chilul Shabbos. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. New Mishnah, the bottom of Lamed Hey Rama Aleph. Shar shar yeroidiv achashar acher v'huzak. One ox was running after another ox, and we found the second ox, the was chased, got damaged, but we didn't see it getting damaged. Let's say it broke its leg. The victim's ox says to the mazak's ox, your ox did the damage. That's how my shar broke his leg. The mazak says it wasn't loiki. It's not the way you said it. It fell on a rock. So now, was it a rock that caused the damage, or was it the ox? We don't know. The nizik would have to prove it that it was the mazak's ox that caused the damage in order to collect. And that's the key to this Mishnah. If you really want to pull money out of a person, if you're pulling money out of a person, you have to, the burden of proof is upon you. Another case. You have two oxen running after one person. One ox. Each one is saying, your ox did the damage. And the other one saying, your ox did the damage. There were two mazak ox, three people. Two mazak ox, potential mazak ox, and one nizik ox. But we don't know which of the mazak's ox did the damage. One says it was your ox. One says, no, it wasn't mine, it was yours. So they pushed, we go to Lamed Hey and Beis, Shneim Peturim, they're both potter from paying. Why? Because, again, we don't know exactly for sure which one was the mazak ox. But let's say there was two oxen, and they both belong to one person. Then you know for sure it belongs to one person. They're both obligated to pay. It means that for sure the owner of those two oxen would have to pay, because it's either one of his oxen that did the damage. Perhaps you'll collect the tam, if it was a tam, you'll collect from both oxen, because you don't know which one did the damage. Tam, you collect megufoy. Now, says the Mishnah, other cases. There were two oxen belonging to one person, and one was a big ox and one was a small ox. Now, you want to collect from the big ox, because if you're collecting megufoy shel ox from the body of the ox, you would want to say for certain that it was the big ox that did that damage. So hanizik, the nizik says, godol hizik, the big ox did the damage, so I have more of a place where to collect my damages. V'hamazik, the mazik says, loiki, it wasn't so, eliki katan hizik, by small ox did the damage. Another case, echad tam, echad muad. The two animals in question, one is a tam animal, one was a muad animal. Remember, a tam only pays 50%, and a muad pays 100%. So hanizik, the nizik says, muad hizik, oh, your muad did the damage, so I get 100%. V'hamazik, loiki, it's not so, eliki tam hizik, the tam did the damage. So again, the burden of proof is on the nizik. Hoya hanizok in shnayim. There were two niziks over here, and we're going to have two maziks. Echa gadol ve'echa katan. One had a big ox, and one had a small ox. V'hamazik in shnayim, and there were two maziks. Echa gadol ve'echa katan. One was a gadol, one cotton. So again, there's a nizik and a mazik, but they each own two oxen. Okay, one nizik, one mazik. Each own a big ox and a small ox. Okay, so hanizik, the nizik says, your gadol, hizik is a gadol. Your big ox damaged my big ox. The cotton is a cotton, and your small ox damaged my small ox. The mazik says, loy, not so key, not the way you said it. El cotton is a gadol, the gadol is a cotton. The small ox damaged your big ox, so there's less of a way to collect, because it's a small ox that did the damage. The gadol is a cotton, and the big ox did the damage to the small ox. Again, echad tam v'echad muad. There's a tam and a muad, and the nizik has two ox. Hanizik oimer, the nizik says, muad hizik is a gadol. Your muad did damage to my big ox. The tam is a katan, and the small one that was damaged by your tam. So that's the nizik. So it's to his advantage. The mazik says, loiki, it's not so. El tam is a gadol, umuad is a katan. The tam did damage to the big ox. So it'll only get, you're only going to recover not so much of your damages. Umuad is a katan, and the muad damaged the katan. Again, the mazik is trying to minimize his out payments, and the nizik is trying to maximize the out payments from the mazik. The burden of proof is on the nizik, because he's trying to bring money out of somebody else. Amar Rab Chia bar Abba says that our Mishnah is arguing against sumchus, because really our Mishnah seems to say that we always follow what the mazik is. If the mazik is saying, I owe you less money, we believe the mazik, and the burden of proof is on the nizik. And we don't say, oh, let's split the difference. Let's make it 50-50. No. So there's an opinion called sumchas. We're going to learn more about that later in the Masechta. Chalukin olav chaveirav al sumchas. The chaveirim disagreed with sumchas. That means this Mishnah, our Mishnah, disagrees with sumchas. The Amar who said, "Maman hamuto b'safek cholkim." That maman, that if you have no idea, then you divide it up. Let's say a shar was chasing a cow, and then they ran into a dark alley. And you find in the dark alley, that there's a damaged shar, and there's a baby over there. So the question was, the baby part of the damage of the shar, or was the baby born before the shar did the damage? So since the burden of proof, we don't know. Sumcha said, whenever you have a doubt in money, cholkin, you split it. Would Sumcha say that his statement that even if both sides are for sure hold of their opinion, that means I'm clear in my side, and he's clear in his side. So the Teveya and the Nitva are both clear on what's owed. Would Sumcha say, split it? Amalei en. So Rab Chia bar Abba said, yes. Okay? So Rab Chia bar Abba said to Rab Abba bar Mamel, yes. That Sumchas would say, Ama Sumcha afila babari babari. Even if a bari and bari, Sumchas goes so far and say, split it. Because really, Sumchas would say split it if the Teveya is a bari and the Nitva, the one that you want to collect from, is a Shema. So then you split it. But to go so far that the guy who the one you're trying to collect from, he's certain in his case, would you force him to split it? And Rab Chia bar Abba said, yes, Sumchas would say that. Umamai, because how do I know that? The Mashnisim b'bari b'barihu. Our Mishnah is talking about a bari and bari, and we say Amoitzi mechaverai olav araya. The Ketani, what's our Mishnah? Ze oimer sharche hizek v'zem oimer loy ki. When the first case of our Mishnah, when they went into a dark alley, and the question was, who did the damage? Was the shar doing the damage, or was it just the shar tripped over a rock? So each one was saying, the Nizik saying, your shar did the damage. The Mazik was saying that no, it was the rock that did the damage. And what do we say? Hamoitzi mechaverai olav araya. So Moitzi mechaverai olav araya. So that's proof that Sumchas, who disagreed with our Mishnah, would hold his opinion that even by a bari and bari, Sumchas would say cholkim. Since we have a statement that says Sumchas is the one that totally disagrees with our Mishnah, it must be that Sumchas will go so far and say that even when they bari or bari, when they're both clear on what they're firm on what happened, Sumchas would still say split it. Maskif lo Rapapa. Rapapa is going to prove that our Mishnah is not a bari and bari. Maskif lo Rapapa. Rapapa says mid the ratio bari bari, seifa nami bari bari. Since the beginning of the Mishnah, you have to say it's each the mazik and the nizik with both clear, certain on what happened. So seifa nami bari bari. So it must be that the end of the Mishnah, They were both a bari, right? The end of the Mishnah was also talking about a bari, that the mazik is a bari and the nizik is a bari. Let's see how that makes sense. Aim a sefer, let us say the sefer. There was a big ox and a small ox. Nizik oimer gadol hizik. The nizik says the gadol did the damage. Umazik oimer loiki ela kotan hizik. It was the small one that did the damage. Echatav echan muad. Nizik oimer muad hizik. Vamazik oimer loiki ela tam hizik. Amaitzi mechaveru alavaraya. So if the nizik tries to say it was more damage, it was damaged by the higher priced animal, the big animal, or the muad animal, and the mazik says no, it was the tam or the smaller animal, we believe the mazik. So if the nizik doesn't prove it, shakal kadam mazik, then you take it whatever the mazik said. So now, so if you're going to learn that the mazik and the nizik were both certain, so name it the heavy tiyufta Bar Nasan, then you'll have a problem that this will refute an opinion of Rabba Bar Nasan, the Omar, who said, Tana chitim. If a guy comes over to you and says, you owe me wheat, and the guy says, I don't owe you wheat, but I owe you barley, potter, you're potter for paying, because he's saying, I don't care if you owe me barley, you owe me wheat. And the guy says, no, I only owe you barley, so they're talking two different languages, is potter. And our Mishnah, when the mazik is saying, oh, it was this animal, and the nizik is saying, no, I sure it was the other animal, why would the mazik have to pay at all? Why would you have to pay at all if the nizik was so certain that it wasn't this animal, it was the other animal? And it should be very similar that if Tana Chitim, if you're claiming that you owe something else and you don't agree with the Chitim, you're potter from paying. Ella says the Gemara, Babari V'Shema. Our Mishnah is talking about that the guy V'Shema, the Kamma, that one of them is a bari, and when the other one is a shema. The Kamma bari man. Who is the bari over here? The sefer of the Mishnah. The Kamma shema man. And who is this? Who's the shema? Name it. Would you say the Kamma nizik bari? If the nizik was a bari, that it was the smaller animal, it was the bigger animal that did the damage. The Kamma mazik shema. The mazik says, I'm not sure. Akati, let me tell you, if the nizik saying it wasn't the smaller animal, and the mazik says, I'm not sure, so then the mazik shouldn't have to pay at all. Ella, the Kamma nizik shema, the nizik is saying shema. The Kamma mazik bari, and the mazik is saying bari. I know it was my smaller animal. The nizik says maybe it was your bigger animal. So that's the end of the Mishnah has to be that that one of them is unsure. So umid the seifa nizik shema mazik bari. Since the end of the Mishnah, one of them is a shema. The nizik was a shema, and the mazik was a bari. Reisha nami nizik shema mazik bari. Then the reisha would be when the nizik was a shema and the mazik was a bari, and therefore, and va'ama sumchas avila b'hal, would sumchas say when the nizik is not sure it was the rock, maybe it was your animal that did the damage, and would you say that sumchas would disagree and say no, you should divide it? The Itzrich Lashmin the loy that no Chachamim disagree with that. How could if the Reisha was talking about when the nizik is not sure if it was the rock that did the damage or the shore that did the damage, and would you say that our Sumchas would hold in such a case? You split it, but that even the nizik is not even sure. Why would you split it? That the Chachamim say no, you don't split it. You have to do what the Mazik said that it was the rock. Why would Simcha say you split it? So loy. You have to look at it this way. Sefer Nizik Shema. The Sefer is talking about, you're right, Nizik was a Shema, Mazik Bari. But Reisha was the opposite. Nizik Bari, Mazik Shema. The Nizik was certain. He was saying that it was the shore that did the damage. The Mazik says maybe it was the rock. And therefore, that's what the case is. But if it was a Bari, Sumchus would not say splitting. It's only because the Mazik was a Shema and the nizik was a bari, then Sumchus would say split it, and since the Chachamim say since the mazik is a shema, even if the nizik is a bari, he still has to prove it. Says the Gemara, we'll stop over here. The whole like damya reisha l'seifa. One more minute. The Sefer Reisha, the Mishnah, is different than the Sefer the Mishnah, because one is talking about, the Sefer is talking about nizik shema mazik bari, and the Reisha is the opposite. The nizik is the bari, mazik is the shema. Amri, so we say, no, the Chachamim answers that's not a difference in the Mishnah. Bari v'shema bari chad milsi. If a Mishnah is talking about cases where one's a bari and one's a shema, and the other one's a shema and that's a bari, the way we're learning our Mishnah, that's okay. It does sometimes the nizik is the bari, sometimes the mazik is the bari, sometimes the nizik is the shema, sometimes the nizik is the bari. It doesn't matter. Mazik is the shema. But bari or bari, if you're going to say the first case of the Mishnah is talking about they're both bari, and the sefer is a shema and bari, and the second part of the Mishnah is one's a shema, one's a bari, that's a very difficult way to say our Mishnah. Trei milini, that's two different ways. Again, was the last piece of the Gemara that tried to understand sumchas. Sumchas is, lenient to liberal opinion that you always split it. But you only split it only if one is a shema and one is a bari, but not if they're both bari. Then sumchas wouldn't go so far and say you split it. Okay, B'ez Hashem, we finished Daf Lamed Hey.
Where did you leave?
Sure.
By Gufa.